Hey everybody, welcome back to One More Guitar. I'm Kyle. Thank you for checking out the channel. If it's your first time, please remember to hit the like button and hit the subscribe button to get notified when I put out new videos. Last week I unboxed a Epiphone Les Paul Special, and I actually shot that footage a couple of weeks ago, so I've had a couple of weeks with the guitar and I really love it, but out of the box the setup was pretty bad in my opinion. So I shot the footage of how I set the guitar up, and I wanted to post that just in case I could help anybody else who may be in the same boat as me. Even if you got this exact same guitar and have the same problem, maybe this will help you out. So what I'm going to talk about today will apply to a tun-o-matic bridge or a wraparound bridge, or basically any kind of fixed bridge that's one piece. I didn't have to go through every step of setting up a guitar because there were parts of it that were fine, but I'll at least talk about those parts so you know what you need to look for. So let's get into this. Alright, I had two reasons I wanted to set this guitar up. First, the action was really high when I got it, and the guitar itself was pretty dirty. So I'm going to go over setting up the action on this guitar and cleaning it up a little bit. So I measured what the action was out of curiosity, but now I'm going to just take the strings off and start cleaning this guitar up a little bit. Once you get the strings off of the guitar, it's a good idea to go ahead and wipe down the parts, especially this guitar, because if you saw my unboxing video, there was a film all over this thing. When I started wiping this down here, it started pushing it around a little bit, and it ended up being all over the guitar really. So I'm going to polish it again in a minute, but I had to get this gunk off of the guitar. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do is polish the frets up. You can see that I've taped off the fretboard, just having the frets themselves exposed. I'm using fine fret polish. I've been using this for a while now and it gets the job done. Basically just put a little bit on a cloth here and buff the frets. You really want to try to keep this stuff off the fretboard and keep the string winder from falling in the floor. Now we've got to get a new table. Anyway, so it says you can get this on the fretboard, but to wipe it off immediately, but I don't recommend it. So if you're going to use this stuff, make sure to tape your fretboard. It's pretty good though. It makes the frets really slick and smooth. Alright, so I'm going to finish this up and then we'll clean the body of the guitar. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do is use this F1 oil by Music Nomad to oil the fretboard. It doesn't take much, just run a little bit across the neck and then wipe it in really good. Now this guitar was really dirty, so you'll see in a minute how much dirt comes off just the first run here. Isn't that crazy? There's more. There's a lot more. Look at this. And I did it again off camera later and got it. And that's after I continued to clean it here. Okay, the last thing I want to do cleaning wise is to polish the body of the guitar. I got this Ernie Ball guitar polish off of Amazon. I can't remember if it was $5 or $8, but I figured I'd give it a try. So it came with a microfiber cloth here with Ernie Ball's logo on it, which is pretty cool. This is the first time I've bought guitar polish, but it had some good reviews, so we'll see how it works. let's take a look and see how it worked. I think it looks pretty good. I should probably mention I'm not sponsored by any of these products. I just use them and try them and figure out what works. I think this stuff worked pretty well. I'm happy I got it before I got this guitar because it really needed it. So I'm happy with that product. Usually the first thing you want to do when you set up a guitar is check the neck relief. When I was making the unboxing video, I didn't know I was going to use this footage in an actual setup video. I checked the relief on this guitar and there was nothing wrong with it, so that's why I didn't record anything. But I'll go over this step real quick just for completeness. So what you want to do to check this is put a capo on the first fret and then fret either the high or low E string where the neck meets the body of the guitar. And just kind of look down the string and see if the neck looks like it's straight or if it's bowed one way or the other, up or down. Sometimes a little front bow is okay. A little relief in the neck will let the strings ring a little better. If it's back bowed, that's going to cause your notes to fret out, or the infamous fret buzz. So you may want to loosen your truss rod in that case. But I would say for the most part, I don't have to mess with these very often. I know sometimes people who gig a lot and tour around in different climates may have to adjust their truss rod more often, but most of the time these things are fine. Do check it, but as you can see in this case, I didn't have to do anything with it out of the box. And that's been my experience with new guitars lately. I haven't really had any issues with the neck relief. I'd say unless you're having a problem, don't worry about changing anything. If you do think there's a problem, you can use a feeler gauge to measure the neck relief and make any adjustments from there. You can pick these up in any automotive store. If you're going to mess with your truss rod, I do suggest you do a little more research and make sure you're comfortable with doing it. The next step in setting up your guitar is adjusting the action. And the action is just the distance between the frets and the bottom of the string. So you can have really high action like this guitar does, where the strings are pretty far off of the fretboard, making it more difficult to play, but the notes will ring out a little better. Or you can have low action, where the strings are really close to the fretboard and they're easier to play, but sometimes you might get a dead sound or hit a dead note when you bend. So it's good to try to put it somewhere in the middle. I highly recommend getting one of these string action rulers. I got this on Amazon and I think it was pretty affordable. It was cheap, but it works, so I'll put a link in the description. But any ruler will work really. What I'm doing here is I'm measuring the action before I change anything. And what you're measuring is the distance between the top of the fret and the bottom of the string. Some people do this differently, but I don't put a capo on the guitar. I just measure it at the 12th fret with the string open. So you may be wondering, how high does the string need to be off the fret? Well, there's really no right answer to that. It's kind of a personal preference. Here's a chart I found on Sweetwater with some recommended heights. Depending on your guitar's neck radius, there are different suggestions. One more thing I want to mention about the neck radius is that you want the strings to match the radius of the neck. So for example, you want the A string just slightly above the E string and the D string maybe just slightly above that. With these one-piece fixed bridges, we really don't have to worry about it because it takes care of itself for you. It keeps the radius. But I just wanted you to know that for Telecasters and Stratocasters and other types of guitars, if the saddles are movable individually, then you need to remember to keep the radius of the neck. So how do we change the action on this guitar? Well, what we want to do is raise or lower the bridge so we can move the strings either further away or closer to the frets. In this guitar's case, the strings are too far away from the frets and need to be moved closer. The way to do that on these types of bridges is to use the screws that are on the side of the bridge. Since I knew the action had to be lowered, I went ahead and lowered these screws by hand when I had the strings off. The action was significantly high, so I just did it a few turns and thought I would check it from there. So once I got the strings back on, I measured the action and realized it was still a little high. So I just used a screwdriver to adjust the screws on the bridge to lower the action a little more. And after you do this, you want to make sure you tune the guitar up before you check the action again. Actually, you may not want to use a screwdriver to do this part. You may want to use a popsicle stick. It might work a little better. I just didn't have one handy. So you want to get the action set to how you like it. For me, I like 2 millimeters on the bass side and I like 1.5 on the treble side. This is just my personal preference, so get the action set like you like it. What you're trying to achieve is getting the action as low as you can without getting any fret buzz or having the notes go dead when you bend because the strings are too close to the fretboard. I suggest starting with the action lower and then adjusting it until there's no buzz. The next step is to make sure the guitar is intonated correctly, and the intonation is just how accurate the notes are across the fretboard. You want to set up the guitar so every note is as close to being perfectly in tune as possible. To me, this step is one of the magic parts of making the guitar sound good. You make it play well by setting up the relief and the action, but making sure the intonation is good will make a guitar sing. So I really stress to do this for every guitar you get and make sure it's right. So the way to check your intonation is you want to get your guitar tuned to pitch first, and then check the tuning of each string individually at the 12th fret. So you play the string open, you see that it's in tune, and then you play it at the 12th fret. So my guitar is slightly sharp on the E string, which is pretty usual. I never really see it flat on the E string. It's always a little sharp. So now that we know we need to make an adjustment, what do we need to do? Well, the way to fix intonation is to move the tension point at the bridge either closer to the nut or further away from the nut. On a tun-o-matic type of bridge, you can do each individual saddle. On this particular bridge, you have to move the entire bridge. You do that using these screws. If a note is sharp, you need to move the tension point away from the nut. And if it's flat, you need to move the tension point towards the nut. Our note is sharp, so we need to move it away from the nut. If you're making any significant changes, you probably want to loosen the tension on the strings before you make these adjustments. Mine was so close, I just went ahead and changed it. And once you do this, you want to retune all of the strings and then check it again. And then you just repeat this process over and over again on every string until every note is exactly in pitch at the 12th fret. So now that I've tuned up, I'm going to check the E string one more time. It looks pretty close. I'm probably going to have to make some adjustments again for the A string. So for now, I'm just going to let it go, and we'll see if we have to do anything with the A string. So I'll get the A string in tune here, and then we'll check it and see if it's off at all. Okay, as I suspected, the A string's a little sharp too, so I'm going to adjust this again, retune all of the strings, and then check it one more time. As you can see, we've got the A string intonated now, and so it's a matter of just repeating this process across every string. Sometimes it takes a little while because you have to continually retune the guitar, but it's pretty easy to do, and like I said, once you get it done, your guitar will sound so good. Step 4, check your nut. The last thing you want to do is make sure the nut is cut correctly. If the slots are too shallow, the notes will be sharp on the first few frets of the guitar, and if the slots are cut too deep, then you'll get fret buzz when you play open strings. So this is very important, and you do need to check it. Again, I didn't have any problems with this guitar, so I don't have any footage of me actually doing anything about this. But I just wanted you to know that you need to be able to play those notes and have them in tune as well. If you have a problem and your notes are becoming sharp when you play them, you may have a problem with the nut. If you have a brand new guitar and you think there's a problem with the nut, I would recommend sending the guitar back. If it's an older guitar and the nut may have worn down some, there's some things you can do about it, or you can replace the nut completely. They make pre-slotted nuts that don't require much work other than sanding. So those are some options for you if you think there's a problem with your nut. Alright, so I hope that helped you learn how to set up a guitar, at least with this type of bridge. It really does make a big difference, and I think you'll enjoy playing your guitar a lot better if it's set up So if you got a new guitar and you're not really loving it, try setting it up and see if you like it a little more. I think you might. So again, I really appreciate you watching the videos. If you liked it, please hit the like button and hit subscribe to get notified when I put out new videos. And until next time, take it easy and keep playing.